Happy holiday, folks, and welcome to another episode of Plan A Conversations. It's been quite a week. It's been quite a year. I've been talking to so many different clients and having different keynote conversations around what this new year has meant for us around gathering with family, around not gathering with family, around isolation, and around so many different stories of things that people don't feel connected to and things that people do feel very connected to. When I tell you it's been an eye-opening year for me as a coach, I can't say that enough. And so today I wanted to bring back someone who has been one of our, I guess, VIPs of the podcast. And what I mean by that is the first the first season of Plan A Conversations, my good friend, Ken Edwards, entrusted me to support him in telling his story. And throughout now, we're in 6 seasons. When I first started off, when he came on, we're in 1 country. We're now in 73 countries. And Kent's story still is the top 3 most listened to podcast episode, part 1 and part 2 of the entire, cataloging of Plan A Conversations. And so I've just been seeing a lot on what he's doing in social media and also what he's doing in the world. Don't let the social media, guys fool you. He's really doing a lot of the work out here. And I thought it'd be really great for him to come back onto this podcast. Before we get into him and this really great interview for today, I just want to let you know, if you go and check out my website, if you're looking for a new way to get reinvigorated and really hunker and down into your purpose and understand that a little bit more, I am doing a wellness retreat with Susan Miller, with Alana Zabel, and Courtney O'Reilly. Go to my website and check that out. It's a virtual retreat from January 15th through the 17th. And what else is going on? So much is going on, but I really want to get to this interview. So I want to make sure that we just segue right into this conversation. Kent, it's been a huge year for us as a nation, for us as a world. And the last time I spoke to you in 2018, your adoptive dad was just healed miraculously. We felt through a lot of prayer from his diagnosis. You were being reunited with your biological paternal side of your family. And life, I'm sure, has happened these last 2 years. So first of all, welcome back to the conversation.
Peace, Clay. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. What has happened to you after we put the headphones down and we closed the microphone conversation after that period of time?
A lot. I mean, I don't think anyone could sit here and say a lot hasn't happened, period. This has been a interesting past year, and definitely like the past 2 years have been because I think we literally we did your podcast. I think it was like almost 2 years ago to the day, or at least it came out.
Yeah, December 14th, 2018.
Right. And I think it came out on like the 23rd or the 24th, I believe.
It was part of the season of gratitude, the season of hope, special. Right.
I mean, a lot has happened. I think I'll start with just the toughest. My father ended up passing. My father, who raised me, David, my adopted father, he passed away in March of that year following. And that was, I mean, it's been the most difficult thing just in life that I've ever had to deal with.
Right.
So it's been very, very difficult, very traumatic. But you deal. But I would say that was the low. I've had a lot of highs though, like a lot of
right.
highs.
So back to David, that was in 2019 when your dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How was your family? Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
How was your family navigating that loss? How did they navigate it?
I mean, there's a gaping hole. But we're doing well. Like we're doing really well. We have a lot of love, especially between my mom and my sister. There's a lot of love there, and we've really leaned into each other, and And it's hard to say that we've grown. I mean, our bond is just as strong, if not stronger. Um,
Mm.
but it's I think it's helped us. We definitely our love is deeper in many different ways.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's really hard to explain, but we definitely we've worked together and leaned into each
Hmm.
other. We've all equally leaned into each other.
Right.
It's really been difficult during this pandemic with my
Hmm.
mother being alone, and and because they moved to Kentucky several years before he passed.
Hmm.
So they were kind of isolated in their small community there. So it's been a challenging year for my mom.
Hmm.
But we talk like every day,
Right.
FaceTime usually. But that's been good. That's one thing that the pandemic has done. Like we literally talk once a day, which has been really nice.
And I think that was one of the highlights from the podcast. The feedback that I received from so many listeners, from around the world was the strength and the bond of this family. It's just something that like is not common for a lot of people. And your story and being able to share that, within our conversation has been very unifying for a lot of folks, Kent.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, we've dealt with some interesting issues as a family, and very publicly interesting issues. But I think that really made us. It gave us a bond that I don't know. It definitely feels special being a part of uh, of my family. Um, but yeah, it's. I think when you work through adversity,
Hmm.
um, it definitely makes you stronger. And we've had some challenges along the way. Uh,
Right.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. And so then also the other part of our two-part conversation was about your now meeting your biological family and all the nuances of that. How has that experience been even before COVID?
Uh, Even before, so it's been interesting,
Hmm.
very interesting. Um, I think in February of 2019,
Hmm.
I flew out to Chicago and helped. I helped my biological father move because he actually moved to Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
Ironically enough, yeah, he's only about 45 minutes from where my mom is.
Okay.
Yeah. So I helped him. My brothers and I, we went out there and we helped him move. My brother Sean is actually in right outside of Chicago, and then my
Hmm.
other brother John was living in I think Belleville, Illinois at the time. He's now somewhere else. But we both helped. We all helped him move down to Kentucky, which was fun because I got to meet my brother John for the first time, and he's a trip.
Hmm.
So that was a lot of
Okay.
fun getting to hang out with him, chop it up with him, and just yeah,
Hmm.
and get to know him. So that was in February, um,
Hmm.
and I actually this past summer we uh, we found another sister that we had heard whispers about for a while, but just didn't get
Wow.
many details about her. But we found her, and that's
Hmm.
been a real blessing. She's just a sweet person. She's a really genuinely kind person. So that's been. We haven't met in person, but we've talked on the phone several times, um,
Hmm.
and done some FaceTime. So it's been such a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're just now listening to our podcast conversation, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, which you're probably wondering, all right, when was he on season one? Check out the Kent Edwards story, part one and part two, even before listening to the remainder of this podcast episode. And so, Kent, this year, I mean, like you have always, at least as long as I've known you, you have always been very vocal about injustices happening in the world and in general. The last time you were on the show, of course, we were always talking about the connection with, your family that were adopted you and also your biological family. And I could not help but at like watching you and different rallies and then sharing your own perspective. It's like you seem to be a part of a global family, a national family, and that has sort of been uh, a little bit of your experience. Catch us up on the newer, I guess, family that you have adopted along the way through all the different isms that's been happening throughout COVID.
Yeah. Um, can you rephrase that just a little?
Yeah, sure. You have seemed to become a part of on the front lines and being very what's the word I'm looking for? Strongly influenced and strongly working with, people who are on the front lines protesting about all the different systemic racial issues that's happening in the world at large and just humanitarian issues at that. Tell us about that journey and what that has been like for you, and what you saw, what you're seeing, and what that experience has been from being able to connect with new people.
So it's interesting because, I think that you and I first connected um, based
Hmm.
on social justice.
Right.
And I think at the time it's probably like 3 or 4 years ago.
Hmm.
And I hadn't really been able to. So when I graduated college, I moved to the DMV area. Like I lived in Virginia as well as Maryland. But so I was in the DC metropolitan area. And I was really like, I was in the streets on the front lines there, anti-war
Mm.
protests. I remember the Women's March there. We had the 50th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education March. So I was really in the streets. And I think I'd talked to you about that. And I just hadn't, since I've been in New York, I just haven't been able to be out there like that just because I've been so focused on making a living. And I mean, I've done the best I can just in terms of supporting these causes, whether it be, financially or any other way that I can. Um, but this year was different because, we had been cooped up for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months when
Mm.
George Floyd happened. And I wasn't working because I'm a personal trainer, so I wasn't able to
Mm.
work. So I just got called to the streets, and I've met some. This has been interesting. I'll say this because I've made friends this year for that will be friends for my life,
Mhm.
um, and I've also lost people that, which is fine. Lost people that didn't um, like they wanted the quiet version of me, the less
Mm.
outspoken. Um, but I think just for me, like I've dealt with race my whole life, um,
Right.
just my entire life, and I talked with you about it last time when we spoke
Mhm.
on the podcast. So it's just I don't have time for it, and
And when you say you lost certain people, what was those conversations like? Like, what did you lose them from exactly?
I mean I don't even know if we have conversations per se, but I just know
Mm.
that we don't really speak the way we used to.
Mhm.
Which is fine. I mean,
Mm.
it's either you condone racism or you don't, and that's I mean it's
Okay.
that cut and dry. It's not it's
Mm.
that cut and dry, and I think a line needs to be drawn in the sand there. And if you
Mhm.
support people that go ahead,
And when you say that, like people had like this perception of like the quiet, Kent, and yeah,
they
talk a
would
little bit more
me
about
they would prefer me to be less socially outspoken. I think.
that. Mm.
Um, yeah, just yeah, let's talk about sports, let's talk about life. Let's not well why do you have to ruffle the feathers? Why do you have to get people uncomfortable? Um
Mm.
so I but I'm fine. Like I'm good. Like I'm okay. I'm really okay with where
Right.
everything is.
Okay.
So go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Mm.
So back to George Floyd. So, after that lynching, it was like, I don't have any option but not to be in the streets. Um
Mm.
so yeah, I just started yeah, we went down. I believe Pastor Kaji actually she was speaking at Foley Square on the
Mhm.
Friday of I forget it was maybe the first Friday in June or the second Friday in June. Um,
Mhm.
and I went down there and I stayed in the streets ever since that day. Uh, and
Mhm.
I made some amazing friends, and it was good it was good to be a part of something. And I also felt a huge responsibility to show my friends back home in Lynchburg, Virginia, what's going on, because the media,
Mm,
they don't do a really good job at telling really what's happening. They spin the
mhm,
narrative in certain ways, and that goes for even the more liberal uh, stations or channels.
mm.
They don't necessarily tell the truth of what's really happening. I mean, look, we're still in the streets now, but you don't hear them reporting about it unless
Right.
someone gets hurt or something like that, which is bogus. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, it wasn't a fad. It's this is life and this is real.
Mhm. And for you, what was the call of the hour? Like a lot of people say all the time that these groups of people who are taken to the street, they have no mission that is going to lead to a sustainable shift or change. What do you say to people who feel that people are just out in the street just to be out in the street? There's not a purpose or there's not a call that's happening there. Like clear that up for some folks.
So I think you have this continuum, right? And you
Hmm.
have people that are actually physically out there being seen, making people uncomfortable, causing a disruption.
Hmm.
And then you have people that aren't comfortable doing that, but they're still donating, they're still giving up their talents in some way, shape, or form, which is
Hmm.
great. Um, so I think I'm out there to make people uncomfortable, to cause a disruption,
Hmm.
because I think so often, I mean, that's the whole idea of protest. You have to cause disruption so you can be seen, to call attention to the issue, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, that's where I have that's does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. And so for you personally, what was your what is it that you wanted to change? What is it that you wanted done by protesting?
I think equality. I think more
Mm,
than anything,
mm,
I think a lot of it has to do with how rooted we are in white supremacy,
mm,
and not being able to not being afraid to call it what it is.
mm,
Um, so we need to call it out, and we need to like abolish the system. We need to People think you can't, but no, you can. We need to begin again. We need to start over. We need to do something
mm.
um, that gives us all a more level playing field.
Yeah, all more level playing field. And for you right now in particular, I'm really curious, how are you defining like your purpose in this? Do you feel that, like you're protesting and calling out white supremacy and those kind of things? Has it lent itself to a newer found purpose for you at all?
Yeah, because for me, I'm still always gonna be as active as I can physically out there
Right.
as I can.
Hmm.
Um, but there also needs to be other stuff done. So I was lucky. I this summer I rode to DC for the
Hmm.
Empowerment March.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, the Commitment March. That was down in DC on the 29th, on the on the anniversary of Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech.
Right.
Um, so we rode down there. I rode with a group of about 120 people. It was a group called Ride to DC.
Hmm.
I was already gonna go down there anyway, um, but I was like, okay, well, this makes perfect sense. This allows me to be physical and actually
Right.
ride for a purpose.
Mm.
So I decided to ride and raise money to give to various groups, and also to help me start my own. Eventually, it's going to be a non-for-profit organization. So I was able to I raised close to, excuse me, $14,000, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Hmm.
So we've been able to do a lot for that. We actually just got incorporated at the end, right at the very end of October.
Hmm.
And the idea you know, with my organization is we basically generate revenue through movement. And
Hmm.
we try to align ourselves with community based programs. We're about diversity, empowerment, equality, inclusivity, social justice, and unity. So, what we do is we generate money, and then we help give to those groups who don't have the funding that they need to
Hmm.
push the envelope and to create and to fulfill the mission.
Okay, and what's the name of this organization?
It's called Daye Movement.
Day of Movement. So
Daye
day,
Movement.
day
And let me
movement.
explain to you. So Daye is my father's name is David and my mother's name is Kay. So it's
Hmm.
spelled Daye because they impressed upon us.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, because my mother's name is Kaye and then David. So I combine them. Also, like, there's some metaphor in it because day, when I think of day, I think of sun. When I think of sun, I think of energy. And that
Hmm.
and we need that energy to live. Um, so that yeah, that's what it is. Day Movement Inc. right now, and eventually it's going to be. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry. I find it so fascinating that this particular point in time where there's a movement that is happening has been able to redefine who I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, who you are as a person, but to redefine your purpose and where you see that being positioned along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think too often we try to do things that aren't meant for us to do.
Uh-oh.
Um, so
Preach.
I think it's important for us to stay in our lane, figure out
Mm-hmm.
where our gifts are. One of my
Mm-hmm.
gifts happens to be uh, I'm athletic. I played a lot of sports growing up, and that led me to the industry that I'm in now, the fitness industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it made sense for me to make money off of movement, make money to help people that are in movements
Mm-hmm.
that are yeah. So that's the idea. So that's where we get the traction.
Mm-hmm. And so you were riding to DC for this march, and what happened when you were there?
Oh man, it was an awesome trip. It was women led. Um, and our leader was her name was Helena. Um, really cool. And she her vision was to get us to DC. We had we had each night we had speakers. Um, we had activities every day. It took us about 6 days to get there. We had one off day, which was I believe Tuesday or Wednesday, but we had one off day, and I met some really cool people. I mean, some people that I had never been around people um, that were is like eager um, to for change. And
Mm,
it was extremely diverse, an extremely diverse group of people, um, extremely inclusive, and that was the whole idea.
mm,
Because if you look at the biking industry, it's I mean, if you ever see the bikers on the street, it's mainly men,
mhm,
predominantly white men.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and it's a very exclusive community. Like, I don't know
Right.
if you know a lot of bikers, but it's a very exclusive community. So their idea, I mean, we had people riding down there on fixed gear bikes. We had people riding on
Wow.
single speeds. A person in my pod was on a fold up bike. Um, and so like it was about how can we make biking more inclusive for everyone. So
Mhm.
that was the idea behind it. Um, but yeah, the
So,
people that I met were just really, really, really good people.
hmm, what do you think is the silver lining that's connecting all these people together from different walks of life? Like, what is it about this particular period in time where it doesn't matter what your color of your skin is, what your age, where you come from, but like, what is happening or has happened that has allowed for this to be the perfect storm, if you will?
I think we've seen it before our eyes. All the atrocities that continue to happen, not just here but globally.
Mm,
Um, just in terms of just discrimination, any kind of discrimination we're talking,
mm,
whether it's based on race, gender, sexual orientation, whatever it is.
mm,
I mean, enough is enough. It's no time. I mean, it's 2020, and
mm,
we're still living like it's in biblical times almost.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you say to people who are in the forefront of their mind? They're like, okay, I see what you're saying. I want to get involved, but I feel that I'm going to fail every time I try to, get involved in these different conversations where I may say the wrong thing or I don't know exactly where to start.
I say that's okay. You can fall on your face a couple times and
Hmm.
learn, and you have to learn.
Hmm.
I don't. Yeah, I think asking questions and I think listening. I think a lot of times listening is good too. And I will say that I have noticed that now my mom and I went back and forth about this because I said, Mom, it's crazy because liberals are why we can't progress.
Hmm.
And and Martin Luther King said it, and he said it's the moderates that are going to hold us back, that are holding us back. It's the moderates. And right now, those moderates are really liberals, right? And the progressives are the liberals back then. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? So the
Hmm.
progressives, the people that push the envelope, that yeah, that are pushing the envelope, are pulling everyone. Hopefully, they can continue pulling everyone to the right way. But right now, the liberals are holding us back because so often they're not listening because they know it all. And it's time to listen and lean into those people that have experienced stuff that you might not necessarily have experienced.
Hmm. Why are they not listening for you in your experience?
That's a good question. I think I don't have the answer to that. I
Hmm.
really don't have the answer to that. I wish I knew,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
But my mother and we were talking about it, and she was like, "Clint, I don't think that's fair to stereotype people or to label people rather." And I was like, "Well, Mom, you know, you're getting offended as if what I'm saying to you is I'm applying it to you." She's like, "Well, I'm liberal." I was like, "Mom, you're not liberal. You are progressive. I mean, you're practically a socialist. You're."
Hmm.
She's like, "Oh, well, I guess you have a good point there." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You need to like understand what's what."
Hmm. And how does she respond to that?
I mean, she agreed. She
Okay.
agreed. Yeah, she totally agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found like a different relationship or have you found God more throughout, this year?
Um. Yeah. Yes and no.
Okay. Tell me
I
more.
mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think God is
Hmm.
always present.
Hmm.
Um. I've seen God work in different ways.
Hmm.
Um. Within within the communities that I've been involved in. So yeah, God is has been very present. Can I give you like specific times when
Hmm.
I felt like God showed up more? No, not really. But
Hmm.
but no, nothing that has happened could be without God.
Hmm. And the reason I ask that question is because I feel like a lot of people have been feeling like their faith has been either pushed to the brink or there's been like some spiritual resurgence of some sort because of all of the suffering on such a macro and micro level, and people are experiencing maybe God differently this year than other years before.
I hope so. I hope so. Um, I hope so for everyone's benefit. Um, but yeah, yeah. I mean, there are times in my life where I feel God's presence more, and there are
Hmm.
times when not as much. But I don't ever think that God is not present.
Right, right. Yeah. So, out throughout this whole entire year in particular, what have you learned most about yourself through the movement that you've been a part of?
Um, I I'm okay with you know what, I got to be honest. I feel like I've shed a lot this year. Like I've shed my skin.
Hmm.
Um, because I think even in you and I talked, and I was like, well, I wouldn't say that I code switch, but I often don't say things that I haven't. There have been times where I haven't said things that I definitely would say now, or corrected people, um, because I was afraid of it having backlash in terms of like my job or whatever. Now it's like
Mm,
whatever. I don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really
mm,
matter. I'm not gonna. I will not hold my tongue. Period. So I think I definitely feel stronger. I think what I've always understood inclusion and I've always been for it, but I think when you really are living it, it's much different. Um,
mm.
when you're
How
and I
so?
think I just think that like when you expand your circle and make different friends, I think you tend to grow. When I'm meeting people that I've never been around before. Uh, you know, um, Not that I've never been around before, but I can't say that I've ever been really close with people. On Thursday nights, I march with I haven't gone the past 2 weeks, but with the Black Trans Liberation um,
Mm,
folks, and that's really cool. Like getting to know because that's the most marginalized group in our society right now. Um,
mm,
because they're not just getting it. I mean, they're getting it also from our community, from the Black community as well. Um,
mm,
being discriminated. Um, so it's really cool being a part of them, being a part of what they're doing, because they're really pushing the envelope. I mean, they have the rain, snow, shine, whatever. They are out there every Thursday. They've been doing coat drives on Sundays. I think they did one on Saturday, and they actually have something this afternoon as well. That I think I'm going to go to after we get off this call. Um, so yeah,
mm.
I think just expanding your my circle has been very enriching. Not to say that I haven't had a diverse group of friends, because I have. I've had a very diverse group
Mhm.
of friends, but I think that I just see the how beneficial community is. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this year: community. Yeah, because you can if you have a strong community, you can do amazing things.
Yeah. And so for a lot of other folks who are saying that this communal group of people that are coming together, this is a fad, it's going to die down. What do you say to those people who are not in alignment with the community is getting stronger, it's getting bigger, and it's growing, is much more sustainable than what it was before? What do you say to those people?
Okay, that's fine. What are you doing?
Hmm.
Are you okay with where our society is?
Hmm.
I think that's the question I would ask them. Um, because if you're not, what are you doing? And if you're okay, okay, that's fine. We probably don't need you. I mean, that's kind of harsh, but I just don't have, I don't, I'm not the spokesperson.
Right. Right.
Uh, and I'm probably not the best recruiter. So so yeah,
so what
whatever.
So what do you see at the okay, so we're in the middle of this COVID pandemic. We're in the middle of pandemic isms of so many different perspectives. What do you see in terms of how we are going to be able to create a much more fair, sustainable, and just world?
Um, I mean, stuff has to change. I mean, politically, things need to change.
Hmm.
I think it's up to us to. I think we need to focus on local politics too.
Hmm.
I think we need to figure out our community leaders, figure out who our congressmen are, congresspeople are,
Hmm.
um, and I think we need to make this president. We need to hold him accountable because he's done some bad things. He's passed some bad. He's done some bad things. We'll say that
Hmm.
that have not uplifted Black and Brown people.
Hmm.
Um, so I think we have to hold him accountable,
Hmm.
and and that starts locally as well. But that starts locally.
Right. So you're saying that we need to be much more locally minded rather than the, federal elections and those kind of things.
Yeah. I think also it's also I think it's important to uplift each other. I think it's very important to support Black business. Um,
Mm.
I think that's very important. I know I'm a little all over the place. Um,
This is perfectly fine. It's a great conversation. We're really catching up. This is good.
yeah, I think that's crucial. Um,
Hmm.
because that's really the only way we're going to. I mean, we need to talk reparations in some way, shape, or form. In some
Hmm.
way, shape, or form. I don't know where we start that,
Right.
but we have to have that conversation because essentially you had a group of people. And look, I've been very privileged, very very
Mm.
privileged. Um, but I think we need that conversation needs to continue, but it needs to be more of a conversation. We need to figure out what we're going to do um,
Mm.
beyond like affirmative action type things. Where
So a
um,
much more economic, like playing field, like the economics behind
yeah,
it. The capitalistic society is a big, big part of the problem that we're in.
I mean that's the I'd say that's the root of the problem. I mean it's
Agreed. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I'm more of a socialist, which people probably don't. A lot of people probably don't like, but I'm okay with that.
Hmm. What does that mean? You're more of a socialist.
Uh, I believe in fairness. I believe in everyone getting a chance, getting an opportunity, um, and I believe in spreading it out. I mean, we've got so much money here in this country, and
Yeah.
then and he's going to give people $600. Like, that doesn't even make sense. But
None.
we're going to fund the military. Um, we're going to still keep giving money to the police, not reallocating those resources that we're giving to them. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But then they'll give us $600. That's I don't know. That it's something is wrong with that. Something is wrong with the
And then,
world superpower. That go ahead.
mm, no, you go ahead. This is good. Mm.
Yeah, I just think I think it's bogus, and I think that if you look back to the roots of capitalism, it's based in white supremacy, um, slave trade, like all these things. But people don't want to talk about that. People don't want to
Yeah.
talk about that. That happened so long ago. No, but still, if if the rate starts here, right, and you're getting this much of a lead, that's going to grow exponentially over time, exponentially.
Yes.
And people don't want to have that conversation, man. And it has to happen.
It's so interesting you say that. Right at I would say the height of this, and the height, that word I use very loosely. Um, I was just being invited to do a speaking engagement, and we're talking about economics here. And the company that invited me, they were trying to pay me well underneath market value, right? So I respond back to them and I say no to them. And a really good friend, and he's a really avid listener to this podcast. I said, it can't just be me, because there's a whole bunch of us Black coaches who are doing a lot of corporate speaking engagements, and we're all saying the same thing. We are not receiving, fair, adequate pricing for our skill sets, our gifts, our talents, and our professional abilities at all. And so one of my really good friends who's become a brother to me this year, he said to me, well, let's have a conversation. We had a conversation, it was a Zoom call, I'll never forget. Kent, he shared with me his pricing matrix for what it is that, he receives. And we talked a lot about what a standard market value is for speakers, for coaches. Ken, I was getting paid 600% below market value. And so was all the additional other Black coaches who well beyond my credentials and or at the exact same level. And if he did not sit down and have that conversation and then said to me, Clay, if you want to arrange a Zoom call where I can just share as much knowledge and information as I possibly can, I would not have known. I would not have known that. And for the first time in 15 years of my career of doing this, first time, I was paid market value this year, first time. But
Yeah.
it did not happen if I did not have that conversation to understand the economics behind, what you're speaking about at all here.
That's ridiculous. I'm not surprised. Like that's not
Oh, yeah, of
surprising.
course not. Yeah.
It's infuriating, but it's not a
Hmm.
surprise.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a surprise.
Yeah. And so a big part of a lot of it, well, the part of it is, of course, capitalism, economics, and, figuring out how beyond, the what is fair for everybody, what is fair for everybody and how we get there at, I don't know exactly what that is. So as you're moving forward now, we're in the holiday season, we're in Christmas and, those kind of things, and preparing to go to a whole other year. What's not stopping for you right now in this period of time? Like, what are you pushing for? What's your agenda moving forward to the new year?
So right now I just started so again, I'm in the fitness industry and you know, it's a very exclusive place. Like it's a
Yeah.
very exclusive place, which is bullshit.
Hmm.
Um because for me, I got into fitness and into movement for here. Yeah, I wanted to look good, but I also know if I didn't release endorphins, I've dealt with depression my whole entire life. If I don't
Mm.
release endorphins, if I'm not moving, I'm in a bad place. That's just it. Like I'm not in a good place, and I know how important that is. And I think that we're not able to connect with as many people because they feel discriminated against, or they feel like they might not fit into the fitness culture. Um, so what I'm doing is I decided to um, I'm making I'm a photographer as well. But I
Hmm.
started shooting videos recently. I started doing more videoing, and I'm videoing friends of mine that are in the industry, really smart, way smarter than me, but really good industry minds, and we're breaking down different movements. And the videos actually look pretty cool, um, because there's a lot of bad content out there that's shot amazing. And then there's a lot of really good content out there that's it's not as eye catching. So my idea was to try to shoot something that's a bit more eye catching, but that has a lot more value. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For example, so we're going to show you how to squat today, and then you've got a man or a woman or someone squatting, and all you see is like close-ups of the butt and this and that, and you're not learning anything about what they're doing, but it's a sexy video, and it's getting a lot of likes, but you're not really learning. And I think movement is meant to be shared, and I think the more people we can touch, and the more people we can show quality stuff, the more people can be affected. Because I know you exercise. I know you exercise a lot. Um,
Hmm.
Imagine if you couldn't exercise. Um,
Mm.
Imagine where you would be. It's
Right.
and I think we need to start connecting to more people. So
Hmm.
that being said, hopefully eventually that I can start generating revenue from that. But that's not going to come anytime soon. But that will help with the Day Movement Inc. Um, that's the idea. We're going to do some fundraisers. I don't know exactly what we're going to do yet. I'm sure
Okay.
I'm going to take another long bike ride to as a part of a. That might be the capital campaign. That might be the big campaign for next year. But I
Hmm.
also didn't tell you one thing that we were able to give two scholarships. Dave Movement Inc. We gave two scholarships to uh,
What?
to a Deviate Fitness. Now Deviate Fitness is Phil Scrito and Pam from
Hmm.
they're married, and they're right outside of Philadelphia, and they have Deviate Fitness, which they're really pushing the boundaries on inclusion and just diversity, and they see the need. They understand the exclusivity of the fitness industry, and they're really pushing those boundaries to try to make fitness
Hmm.
more attainable to everyone. So I'm getting
Hmm.
excited. I just lost my train of thought. I'm getting really excited. Um,
This is
Shoot.
good.
Um,
You're,
where was I going with that?
you're talking
Oh,
about the scholarships.
so we were able to give two scholarships to a certification to a kettlebell and Indian club certification. So that was awesome. That was really really cool. I got to go down there as well and participate in the certification. We also organized a voter empowerment march um, in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is my hometown, which was so dope. I mean, it was so
Mm-hmm.
good. I mean, I know a lot of my closer friends, and all of my close friends came, which was great. And I mean, we had roughly anywhere between like 75 and 100 people, which is great because
Mm-hmm.
I I think there, when you say protest, because they've been conditioned by the media, they think riot,
Right.
uh, throw things like that, and that's not. If you know me, that's not what I'm about. So we were able to do that.
Right.
We actually got 30 people signed up. We had like 5 speakers. We got 30 people signed up to volunteer to either carpool, uh, work the polls, um, to carpool and work the polls,
Mm.
which was great. I mean, it was great in a pandemic, and then we
In a
marched,
pandemic. Mm-hmm.
around downtown Lynchburg. Just hopefully getting people invigorated, which was great. I mean, we marched. We marched. We made a big U. We marched in the U for unity.
Mm-hmm.
But we marched past the halfway point was this place that had gotten vandalized back in May or June. I think it was June, um, because the owner was a racist and he made some very
Mm.
inflammatory racist statements. And then I think a couple windows got broken out. Of course, the media blew it out of proportion. But we there's a traffic circle right there, so we walked there and then walked back. But it was important that we
Mm-hmm.
went by that location to show that yeah, we can stand up, we can be who we are, and we're not gonna mess with you, but you're gonna see us. You're definitely gonna see us.
Yeah, you're going to see us. And I think that it can, like, this is such a powerful conversation because look at where we started off with just talking about, what your life was a couple of years ago, like the ending of that to where you are today. Most people don't have an insight, and whether their own ignorance or the ability of not wanting to invest within understanding, most people don't understand the nuances of what movements like this has created. You just talked about putting revenue into the, small business community, Black, brown community. You've talked about creating a nonprofit organization and then also utilizing your natural and professional skill sets and gifts and talents to create more revenue streams, into not only the work that you're doing, but to support the athletic community. That is like 6 major things all within 1 year because of what has happened in society as large, and you taking that step and maybe, purposefully stepping up to the challenge. Like, look at all that was created within this.
So
It's
again,
Mhm.
and I think that just shows the presence of God,
Right.
because as crazy as it sounds, like I don't think any of these things could have happened without this pandemic. Um, and I can't say that the pandemic is a blessing at all, because it is horrible. Like it's
It
just,
is. Mm-hmm.
um, but I think that for myself, there's been a silver lining in that, um,
Mm.
being able to focus on other things as opposed to just like trying to make money, trying to do this, trying
Right.
to do that. So it's been a real blessing being able to do
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Ken, I could talk to you for ever and ever. I have to say, like, clearly I have not seen you at all this year. We've just been catch ups on IG here and there and messages and things like
Yeah.
that. But like what you are doing and what you have created, it is so awe inspiring and motivational. And I really hope that anyone that's listening to this podcast now who's trying to figure out and ask themselves, which I started to ask you at the very beginning, what can I do to be of service, and what can I do to jumpstart, my own personal activism and or response. I hope they can get something from this, because what you have listed and what you're actually doing and living is a testament to what's possible for all of us.
Yeah. Again, I just think it's knowing our strengths and leaning into those. We can't try to be what we're not. I
That's right.
can't I can't be a carpenter if if I'm not good at nailing, if I'm not good at hammering, right?
Yeah.
So I need to figure out what I'm going to be at, what I'm good at. Just figure out what that is. Figure out what that is, and then see how you can help people with that skill.
All right. All right, cool. Before I let you go, we can just go plan A to plan A. And what I do with that is I say a phrase and you complete the end of it. And just off the top of your head,
You know,
whatever that
I mean, I was a horrible actor, and I
uh,
definitely wasn't good at improv. Oh my gosh, I was not good at improv. But let's give it a shot.
this is good. This is good.
Let's do
All
it, baby.
right.
Let's do it.
So the world need more of
Love.
love.
The world
Okay.
needs more of love. Sorry, the world needs more of love. Yeah, that's the first thing I came up with.
Yeah. Yeah. My wish for 2021 is
Health.
hmm, health. Okay. My prayer for the world is
Love and health.
love and health. Okay. Okay.
Can I repeat? Can I repeat? I can give something else if you need something else.
Yeah, go. No, no, good.
Uh, just
Okay.
inclusivity. Inclusivity. I think we need inclusivity in this world.
Mhm. 2020 has taught me.
To go hard. To keep going hard.
Okay. Okay. Um, my purpose is
To help.
to help. Okay. Kent, thank you for this this conversation and this catch up. I love how we were just able to say yesterday, look, I want to catch up with you. This is a way for us to catch up, and I also want the world to be able to hear what you're up to because, like I said before, there was something that our first conversation sparked that people are just still downloading, and it's like I said, been the top three because of your story. Anything else you want to add before we close our time?
I mean, I'm grateful for you. I'm just grateful for the interest and also like I'm grateful for you giving a platform for me to, share some things about myself. Um, I mean, I just I've had a weird life. I'm gonna be honest. It's been kind of weird to be able to share that is it's kind of cool. And I did actually start writing because we spoke about it when in our last in the podcast.
Mm,
I did start writing a book. Um, it was put on hold when my father passed away. I will get
mm.
back to that, but I can tell you it has changed a lot. It's changed a lot. Yeah,
Any
but what's that?
any additional I want to ask how
It's I think I think the narrative is different. I think that the narrative
Mm.
is a bit different. Um, still very blessed, but I think the narrative has changed just a little bit. Yeah, it's look my I think family is so important, whether it's my biological family, maternal or paternal, or it's my family that I know best. I just think family is the most important thing to me. Family
See
and
now that
community.
yeah
Family and community
now
because go ahead.
no you got go.
I think family and community because again, I've met people this year in various communities that are family and that will
Mm,
remain family till I till I die. Does that mean
mm,
Um,
yeah,
so I guess family is relative.
right. There's when that book is published, this is going to be the part two to the part two to the part two because I can't wait to first of all read that, like knowing that you were doing that before. I'm curious to see now, since you said the lens has shifted a bit, like where that's going to take you.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
leave it at that. It's
Okay. And also, just for folks who may want to give to your organization and maybe want to be a part of it, learn anything about it, where can we, go to? Or is there an email address or what?
so. I mean, I do have an email address.
Mm,
It's I've got actually several. They can go to Day Movement. Let me give. Uh, they can go to daye.movement at gmail.com. That's DAYE
Mm.
dot movement at gmail.com. You
And
can
what do you
also
need? Go ahead. I'm
you
sorry.
can
There's a
also
little
find me
delay. Mhm.
you can also find me on IG
Mhm.
at Kent underscore Edwards. That's KENT underscore Edwards, EDWARDS. And I also have a day movement uh, on that. Day Movement Inc. is also on IG, but it's also, you can also connect that from my page. You can see the link on my page.
Okay. And also, just for that particular movement in particular, is there anything that you need right now that you would want folks to be able to support you in?
Um,
Any way that we can be of help?
Not at this moment, not at all. I mean,
Okay.
money's always, we can always take money. I mean, money's always good. But right now, no. Right now, no.
All right. Well, look, folks, we want the money. So, look, I'll be sure to have all of Ken's information for his organization at the base of the podcast. Ken, thank you so much for this time. Of course, brother, I'm going to have you back on just as soon as this book is is ready for public
It's gonna be
consumption.
a while. It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a
Okay.
while. Hey,
All right,
much
folks.
love, Clay. I really appreciate you, Clay. Much love, brother. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way about you, Ken. Like again, I'm just so inspired by you and really love all that you're doing. So, listen, for our folks who are tuning into this conversation digitally, I'll have all of Kent's information at the base of the podcast. And if you're joining us for audio, the exact same thing. You can, of course, find it at Spotify or iTunes. Again, you can learn more about me by visiting clayswilliams.com. And I'm on all of your favorite social media by the handle of at Plan A with Clay. That's at Plan A with Clay. Remember, folks, Clay is with a K. Thanks for listening. Happy holidays. I look forward to seeing you in our very next episode. Peace.